Chapter 17, The Enemy is Negativity. Tuesday morning, George walked on the bus with no life and certainly no kick in his step. He felt like a failure, and he was embarrassed to face the people who were trying so hard to help him succeed. Joy read his energy immediately and knew things had not gone well for him at work. This was her day off and the day she usually visited her father, but she had a feeling George would need her today and wanted to be on the bus to share some energy and lift him up if he needed it. Now, as she looked at George, she was sure glad she had followed her hunch. It wasn't the first time she had seen the look of defeat. In fact, most people she recalled had setbacks as they learned how to drive their bus. Every person and every team will be tested on their journey. It was part of the curriculum of life. She knew this all too well. It's just like riding a bicycle, she thought. In the beginning, you're going to fall off and get knocked down. But the important thing is to get back on, stay strong, and after a while, once you master it, you'll ride with the confidence of a champion. She just had to help George take the wheel and quick because he was running out of time. "What's the matter, sugar?" she asked. "Where's the George who sprang on my bus on Friday?" "He's been knocked down by 2 left jabs and a right hook," answered George. "Well, it's time to get back up," Joy exclaimed. "Life is always going to knock you down. The important thing is you got to get back up. Haven't you seen the movie Rocky?" she asked. Her words piqued his interest. He had always loved the original Rocky movie and had even written his college essay about the movie and a person overcoming their demons and challenges to become someone of worth and value. "Well, of course I have. Who hasn't?" he said. "But that's a movie," he said skeptically. "And this is life, George, and I'm telling you to get back up," she said sternly. "But I failed," he said. "You haven't failed until you stop trying, George. Now pick that sorry head of yours up, sit up straight, and let's talk about how to build some mental and emotional muscle and get your bus rolling." Joy asked George what had happened that got him so down, and he explained the situation and team dynamics to her. He cursed his 2 biggest problems, Larry and Tom, and the 3 wolves who had sabotaged him all day. "They're not the problem," Joy said to his surprise. "What's the problem then?" George asked, feeling annoyed. "Negativity itself," she said. "You see, there will always be negativity everywhere and in everything you do, George. You will always be surrounded by negative people. It's not these people, so to speak. It's the negativity they represent. They're just one of the many you will come across." Marty stood up and shouted from the back with more of his beneficial research. And the Gallup poll estimates that there are 22 million negative workers in the United States, costing around $300 billion in productivity a year. And this negativity not only kills productivity in companies, George, it also kills people. Self-doubt, fear, hopelessness, and negative energy drain you and sabotage everything you want in life and all the success you desire, Joy added. So the same negativity these people represent is also inside you. That's why you got to feed the positive dog, George. But I have all these negative people on my bus and a few other negative people who didn't want to get on my bus. Are you saying I'm the problem and they're not the problem, George asked. I'm quite frankly a little confused. Listen, George, you're too close to the problem to see it. The problem is that you are taking it too personal. Step back for a moment. Don't focus on these people personally. Forget they even have names. Don't think of it as you versus them. Just realize that they represent the negativity that will always be around you. The important thing is to know how to deal with the negativity and what to do with it. So let's first deal with the negative people who didn't get on your bus, Joy said. "Show them rule number 5, Danny." Danny lifted up the sign which said, "Rule number 5, don't waste your energy on those who don't get on your bus." It's simple, my man. Some people are going to get on your bus and some people won't. Don't worry about the people who don't get on your bus. Don't waste your energy on them. Don't try to make them get on. You can't drive anyone else's bus. You can only drive your bus. "I know what you mean," George said. "I tried to drive my wife's bus for years and I quickly learned that she doesn't like when I try to drive her bus." The passengers on the bus chuckled as Joy continued sharing her energy gospel. "That's right, George. Everyone has to make their own choices and you have to make yours. And certainly don't spend your energy being upset that these people didn't get on your bus. Don't take it personal. Maybe they're meant to get on another bus. Maybe if they got on your bus, they would ruin your ride." George knew this would definitely be the case. Plus, the more energy you spend worrying about the people who didn't get on your bus, the less you will have for the people who are on your bus. And if you're worried about the people who didn't get on your bus, you won't have the energy to keep on asking new people to get on. Salespeople know this real well, George. If they get caught up in rejection, they lose the energy to go after new customers and ask new people to get on their bus. So for the people who don't get on your bus, just let them sit at the station as you drive on by. George now realized the grave mistake he had made. He had spent so much time thinking about the three wolves that he had completely ignored the people who wanted to be on his bus. He had been so tired and drained that he had no energy to move the bus forward. But what about the people who get on your bus but are really negative? George asked as he thought of Tom and Larry. The mere thought of them sent shivers down his spine. Joy would have an answer for them as well, and the solution didn't require weapons or garlic. Chapter 18. No energy vampires on the bus. You asked about the negative people, and I'm going to be straight up with you, George. This rule is not for the faint of heart. It's not easy to deal with negativity in the world, but it's something that's got to be done. Your success in life are so important that you must surround yourself with a positive, supportive team. No one creates success in a vacuum, and the people we surround ourselves with have a big influence on the life and success we create. If you want to be successful, you have to be very careful about who is on your bus. After all, there are people who increase your energy, and there are people who drain your energy. I call the people who drain your energy vampires, and they will suck the life right out of you and your goals and vision if you let them. They will cause an engine leak, make your ride miserable, or even worse, slash your tires. But remember, George, don't take it personal. They are just part of the negativity that exists in the world. Your job is to do your best to eliminate any negativity on your bus, and this includes negative people no matter who they are. This is rule number 6, and it's big time. Show 'em, Danny. Rule number 6, post a sign that says, "No energy vampires allowed" on your bus. You got to be strong enough to tell people that you will not allow any negativity on your bus. You got to say, this is where we are going, and to get there, we need a positive, supportive team. And whoever is negative will be kicked off the bus or left at the station. As Joy spoke, George envisioned Larry, Tom, and Michael, Jose, and Jamie all sitting at the bus station as his bus drove off, and he had to admit, it felt very good. But could he really kick people off his bus? And what about the three wolves? He couldn't possibly banish them, could he? Before he could ask Joy, she said, "Those two energy vampires, Tom and Larry, you need to have a meeting with them first thing today and say, look, I don't allow any negativity on my bus. If you're not going to be positive and contribute to our vision, then you're off the bus, and you'll have to look for another job." "That's tough," George said. "I know it is, sugar, but sometimes it's what's got to be done. You give people a chance to change, and if they don't get it, then you got to kick them off the bus, or else they will ruin your ride." "What about the three wolves who chose to stay off my bus in the first place?" asked George. "What should I do with them?" "Meet with them too," Joy answered. "Tell each one of them that they have one more opportunity to get on your bus. If they don't accept your invitation, then make them sit at their desk by themselves while you and your team have your meetings. Don't include them in anything. After the product launch, you can figure out a future plan of action with your human resource folks." George liked what he had heard, and he was ready to take action. He felt equipped with the tools to handle the energy vampires and unite his team to succeed. He wondered, however, why he had never learned any of this in his management training classes. They teach all these policies and procedures, he thought, but they never help us deal with real people and real problems. Chapter 19. The Ultimate Rule of Positive Energy. As they approached George's office, Joy gave him one last piece of important advice. "There is one last thing I got to tell you about all this, George, you really need to know. It's so important, it's not even part of the 10 rules. It's in a class all by itself. It's like the ultimate rule of positive energy, and it's so important, I want you to write it down." George pulled out a piece of paper and a pen and waited for Joy to continue. "Here it is, George. Your positive energy and vision must be greater than anyone's and everyone's negativity. Your certainty must be greater than everyone's doubt. After all, George, there will always be people who don't share your vision. There will always be the doubters who doubt and tell you can't do this and you won't be able to accomplish that. They think that dreams were meant for others, but not for people like you and them. And there will even be people who don't want you to succeed because it makes them see their own weakness and failures. Rather than driving their own bus, they're trying to ruin everyone else's ride. So that's how important your positive energy is, George. You can always kick people off your bus, and you'll need to do that from time to time. But just remember that there will always be more negative people who get on. And sometimes you'll have an energy vampire on your bus, like a boss or someone who you can't kick off. You got to deal with them. That's why you got to feed the positive dog and why you got to cultivate it every day and why we gave you the energy book. One day is not enough, George. It's got to be a habit. Positive energy is like muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. The stronger it gets, the more powerful you become. Repetition is the key. And the more you focus on positive energy, the more it becomes your natural state. So when someone comes at you with negativity, you will be able to respond with strength and positive energy. Just as you become a more skilled golfer by playing more often, you also develop the skill of positive energy by practicing. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes. So grow it and build it so you have the power to overcome the negativity. That's how it works, George. That's the key. George couldn't argue with her. His positive energy wasn't that powerful. That's why he had been so shaken by the people who hadn't gotten on his bus. He didn't have the strength and certainty, and his vision wasn't focused. He had allowed himself to be manipulated and affected by the naysayers because he was weak. He knew today would be the day that they would have to get the bus moving because it was up to him, and he had to be strong. He vowed to himself that today would be different. But before he could step off the bus, Joy grabbed his arm. "Oh, and one more thing before you leave, George. Take this rock." "What is it?" George asked as he held out his hand. "Well, I know it doesn't look like much, all black and dirty. Pretty ugly, actually. But it's a special rock that was given to me by my teacher. When he gave it to me, he said, 'Find the value in this rock, and you will find a priceless treasure inside yourself and in all the people you encounter.'" "What do I do with it?" George asked. "Put it in your pocket for now," she said, "and then look at it often and let it remind you of what I just told you. Find the value in yourself, find the value in the rock, find it in your team."